They didn't declare war on humanity. That would have been easier to understand. Wars create heroes. Wars create victories. Wars eventually end. Instead, the Galactic Compact chose something far crueler. They voted to make humanity disappear. Not through weapons, not through genocide, but through silence. Across the greatest political chamber ever built, 412 civilizations gathered beneath a ceiling that displayed the living map of the known galaxy. Every glowing star represented a member world. One by one, those stars began to dim, not because planets were dying, because they were disconnecting themselves from one species, Earth. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez stood alone inside the observation gallery. She had spent 12 years representing humanity across the stars. She had negotiated peace treaties that saved entire systems, delivered medical aid to civilizations the Compact had already abandoned, risked human lives to rescue species that couldn't even speak the same language. She believed that mattered. Today, she learned it didn't. The high speaker slowly rose. His voice echoed across the chamber. Humanity has become politically destabilizing. The words sounded official, measured, almost reasonable, but everyone knew what they actually meant. Humans had become too influential without becoming powerful. They didn't control fleets. They didn't control governments. They controlled something far harder to defeat: trust. When a mining moon collapsed, worlds called humans. When a plague spread beyond quarantine, they called humans. When negotiations failed, people asked for human diplomats. Friendship had become a currency the oldest empires could no longer regulate. That terrified them, because loyalty earned through kindness could never be ordered by law. The vote began. Lights spread across the chamber. Green, red, green, red. Each vote echoed like another nail sealing humanity's fate. Elena never looked away. 391. 21. No abstentions. The result appeared. Humanity membership terminated. Then came the punishment. 9 orbital stations. Gone. 37 colonies confiscated. The colony ship AFS Horizon, carrying 750 civilians, including children born during the journey, would be detained indefinitely. Then the final sentence appeared. Sol system quarantined, exclusion radius. 600 light years. The chamber erupted into applause. Not polite applause. Celebration. Relief. Some representatives actually stood, as if the galaxy had just become safer. Elena felt something break inside her. Not hope. Illusion. For 12 years humanity believed it had joined a family. Families don't celebrate abandoning one another. She quietly turned toward the exit. No protest, no speech, no final argument. As she reached the doorway, someone spoke behind her, a Carthan ambassador, one of the 21. "We're sorry." Elena stopped but didn't turn around. Instead, she asked a question. When history remembers today, what do you think it will remember? The ambassador couldn't answer. Because neither of them knew. One believed humanity had just reached its end. The other had begun wondering whether this was its beginning. The transport carrying Elena crossed back toward Earth under armed escort. Compact patrol ships boarded it twice, not because they suspected danger, because they wanted humanity to feel powerless. Each inspection lasted exactly 7 minutes. Just enough time to remind every passenger who now controlled the galaxy. Elena never argued. She spent those 14 minutes doing something else. She counted. 21 civilizations had voted against exile. 21. Not allies, not yet, but 21 worlds willing to stand against nearly 400 others. Wasn't the end of hope, it was the beginning of a map. When Earth finally appeared beyond the viewport, she opened a classified file that no one else knew existed. Its title contained only 2 words: Project Horizon. The plan had never been approved. No one believed humanity would ever need it. Tonight, everything was about to change. The emergency meeting began 32 minutes after Elena landed. No cameras, no advisors, no media, Only the leaders of Earth and the people responsible for keeping humanity alive. Nobody greeted her. Nobody asked how she was. One question filled the room before she even sat down. What do we do now? The question wasn't political. It was survival. The compact controlled nearly 60% of humanity's off-world economy. Entire colonies depended on trade routes that no longer existed. Within 6 months, projections estimated shortages of food, medicine, rare minerals, even fusion fuel. Within 3 years, Earth could collapse without firing a single shot. The room waited for Elena's answer. Instead of speaking, she placed a small black data crystal onto the table. It carried one label, Project Horizon. Several council members frowned. One recognized the name. I thought this was canceled. It was, Elena replied, because everyone believed we'd always have friends. She activated the file. The lights dimmed. A forgotten star map appeared. Not the galaxy the compact had explored. The galaxy they had ignored. Beyond the official borders stretched billions of unclaimed stars. Cold, dark, unprofitable. At least that's what the compact believed. They've spent 8 centuries expanding outward, Elena said. They never stopped to ask what they were leaving behind. The map zoomed farther. Ancient gravitational highways appeared between clusters no one had officially explored. Natural corridors capable of cutting years from interstellar travel. Hidden routes buried beneath centuries of outdated surveys. Earth's chief astrophysicist stared at the projections. How long have we known about these? Elena answered quietly. 12 years. The room froze. You kept this classified. I kept it alive. She looked around the chamber. I requested exploration permits 6 times. The compact rejected everyone. Low economic value, insufficient strategic importance. They never explored because they never imagined anything valuable could exist beyond their control. She paused. That arrogance just became our greatest advantage. For the next 6 hours, the council argued. Some wanted negotiations, others wanted sanctions. One general proposed rebuilding the fleet before doing anything else. Elena rejected every proposal. If we fight now, we fight on their battlefield. She enlarged the forgotten star map once more. But if we disappear, they'll spend decades searching the wrong places. Silence settled over the chamber. Then came the vote. Unanimous. Project Horizon was approved, not as a military operation, as the largest migration in human history. Earth transformed almost overnight. Luxury orbital shipyards vanished behind military security zones. Factories stopped producing civilian transports. Instead, they assembled modular colony vessels capable of constructing cities from nothing but rock and ice. Universities canceled hundreds of public research programs. Every engineer, physicist, AI specialist, and habitat architect received the same encrypted message. Report immediately. Within weeks, millions volunteered. Not because they believed success was guaranteed, because they understood failure wasn't an option. History would remember those 16 relentless months by a single name. The awakening, but Elena knew something almost no one else did. Building colonies wasn't the real mission. Colonies could be destroyed, shipyards could be bombed, cities could fall. What couldn't be destroyed was an idea, and she intended to spread one across the stars. Not an empire, not a government, a belief that civilizations should choose one another freely. Not because fear demanded it. As the first fleet prepared to leave Earth, a young navigation officer approached Elena. "Admiral, what if the compact finds us?" Elena looked through the observation window as 15 colony ships ignited their engines. "They will." She watched them disappear into the darkness beyond every known chart. "My job is to make sure they don't understand what they're seeing until it's already too late." Because while the compact believed humanity was running away, humanity had already begun building something that would one day make the entire galaxy question everything it believed about power. 16 months after humanity vanished, The compact still believed its strategy had worked. Trade reports showed Earth's economy had disappeared from every major market. Human intelligence networks intercepted almost nothing. No diplomatic messages, no military broadcasts, no emergency transmissions. To the assembly, silence meant surrender. They couldn't have been more wrong, because beyond the edge of known space, humanity wasn't surviving. It was multiplying. The first colony had already become 3. 3 had become 11. 11 had become 32. Every new settlement followed one simple rule. No colony would ever depend on another to survive. If one world was destroyed, 31 would remain. The compact had built a civilization around centralized power. Humanity built one around resilience. That difference would change history, but Elena understood something even more important. Colonies alone would never defeat an empire. Ideas would. Her first destination wasn't an unexplored world. It was Cartha, the homeworld of the civilization that had voted against humanity's exile. As her diplomatic vessel entered orbit, no escort accompanied it. No weapons charged. No soldiers waited inside the cargo bay. Only one sealed container. When Elena entered the Carthan council chamber, the prime counselor looked genuinely confused. "We expected negotiations," Elena smiled. "I came to keep a promise." She placed the container onto the table. The lid slowly opened. Inside rested the complete quantum architecture of humanity's new faster-than-light drive. The room fell silent. One scientist nearly dropped the scanner in his hands. This is impossible." The counselor looked at Elena. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing," he frowned. "No trade agreement. No military alliance. No exclusive access to our shipyards. Again, no." The counselor stared at her for several long seconds. "Then why?" Elena looked around the chamber before answering. "Because when 400 civilizations abandoned us, yours didn't." Silence. Not political silence, emotional silence, the kind that changes people. Finally, the counselor stood. "You realize every empire in the galaxy would have demanded something for technology like this." "I know." "Then why are you different?" Elena's answer would eventually spread across dozens of worlds. "Because trust isn't bought, it's given first." The meeting lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Carthans didn't sign an alliance. They signed something far more dangerous, a friendship. Within weeks, rumors spread beyond compact territory. The humans who had supposedly been broken were giving away technology that entire empires would have gone to war to protect. Civilizations that had never spoken to Earth began quietly requesting meetings, not because they feared humanity, because they wanted to understand them. Then disaster struck. Base 4, humanity's largest orbital construction site. A microscopic flaw inside a fusion stabilizer went unnoticed during final inspection. At 3:17 station time, the reactor failed. The explosion ripped through 3 habitat rings before emergency systems sealed the breach. By the time rescue teams regained control, 47 people were dead. Dozens more were missing. The news reached Elena while she was returning from Cartha. No one aboard her ship spoke during the journey. When she finally stepped onto the damaged station, workers expected orders. Instead, they watched their admiral remove her command insignia and place it on a shattered maintenance console. "This failure belongs to me." No excuses, no speeches, no attempt to hide behind engineers or statistics, just responsibility. The following day, every construction project across human space stopped, not because progress no longer mattered, because people mattered more. Every safety protocol was rewritten, every design rechecked. Expansion slowed for the first time since exile. Some advisors warned that losing momentum would weaken humanity. Elena disagreed. "If we build our future by treating people as numbers, we become exactly what the compact believes we are." Weeks later, a long-range sensor station detected something unexpected. 3 unidentified diplomatic ships approaching from unexplored space. They weren't compact vessels. They weren't Carthan. No one recognized their designs. As the transmission request arrived, the operator looked at Elena. "Admiral, they say they've heard stories about humanity. They've come to see if those stories are true." Elena smiled. The galaxy was no longer waiting to be discovered. It was beginning to search for humanity. Back inside the galactic compact, something didn't make sense. Humanity should have collapsed by now. Every economic model predicted it. Every political analyst agreed. No civilization had ever survived complete isolation from the compact. Yet, months passed. No distress signals, no request for aid, no surrender. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Only one person found that silence unsettling: Senior Administrator Vex Thuron. Unlike the politicians celebrating humanity's disappearance, Thuron had spent 45 years studying civilizations. He knew one universal truth: empires rarely died quietly. They adapted. He replayed the assembly recording from the day of the vote, over and over, not watching the delegates, watching Elena while everyone else looked defeated. She hadn't, she looked prepared. That realization sent a chill through him. Within 48 hours, Thuron ordered the largest intelligence operation in compact history. Every trade lane was monitored. Every communications relay searched. Every known human contact interrogated. Nothing, not a single clue. One intelligence officer finally spoke. "Administrator." It's almost as if they no longer exist. Thuron slowly shook his head. "No, they exist. We're simply looking in the wrong galaxy." The room fell silent. 3 days later, 28 advanced survey ships departed beyond compact territory. Their mission sounded simple: find humanity. No one aboard realized they weren't searching for survivors. They were about to witness the birth of a rival civilization. The warning reached humanity before the survey fleet had traveled its first 100 light years. Not through spies, not through hacking, through trust. A Carthan diplomat quietly forwarded the compact's classified mission. No payment, no conditions, just one sentence: "Friends don't let friends walk into danger alone." Elena read the message twice. Then she smiled. The compact still hadn't understood. Fear created obedience. Trust created loyalty. And loyalty traveled much faster than orders. The projected arrival time gave humanity 19 days. Panic spread through the colonies. Some governors wanted immediate evacuation. Others proposed destroying unfinished shipyards before the compact could see them. Military commanders requested permission to prepare defensive positions. Every suggestion assumed one thing: that humanity should hide. Elena rejected every proposal. "We've spent 16 months building a future. I'm not going to bury it." She walked toward the panoramic window overlooking humanity's greatest construction project: the Anchor, a station so massive it could host representatives from hundreds of civilizations. It wasn't finished. Another month of work remained. "We don't have another month," an engineer admitted. Elena looked at thousands of workers moving across the unfinished structure. "No, we have 19 days. She turned toward the room. "Then 19 days is enough." Something extraordinary happened across every colony. Nobody waited for orders. Miners became welders. Scientists carried steel beams. Doctors worked construction shifts after treating patients. Teenagers too young to leave their worlds volunteered inside fabrication plants. People slept wherever they collapsed. The station grew hour by hour, not because humanity was racing against time, because everyone believed they were building something their grandchildren would remember. Then, 3 unexpected transmissions arrived. 3 civilizations that had voted for humanity's exile requested permission to attend the opening ceremony. The request shocked everyone. One advisor immediately objected. "They abandoned us." Another agreed. "They'll spy for the compact." Elena remained quiet for several seconds. Then she asked a question. "When we were abandoned, What was it we wanted most? The room understood. A second chance. She approved all three requests because the civilization humanity wanted to become could never be built on revenge. 19 days later, the compact survey fleet emerged from hyperspace. They expected abandoned stations, hidden mining colonies, perhaps a few desperate survivors. Instead, they found thousands of ships, dozens of worlds, and one enormous station illuminated against the darkness. Inside, 24 civilizations were standing together, waiting to sign a document that would change the galaxy forever. The compact believed they had isolated humanity. They had actually united everyone who no longer wished to live under fear. And Admiral Elena Vasquez was about to make sure the entire galaxy witnessed it. The compact survey fleet slowed to a halt. For several long seconds, nobody aboard spoke. The officers had expected hidden settlements, perhaps a few illegal shipyards. Instead, their sensors struggled to process what they were seeing. 38 inhabited worlds, hundreds of orbital platforms, thousands of civilian ships moving between colonies, massive construction rings surrounding planets that had never appeared on compact maps. One officer whispered the words everyone else was thinking. How? They've only been gone 16 months. Before anyone could answer, every display aboard the fleet suddenly went black. Navigation, communications, weapons. Then a single image appeared. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez. She stood inside a circular chamber unlike anything the compact had ever built. No throne, no raised platform. 24 leaders surrounded her in a perfect circle. No civilization stood above another. Commander Kale, Elena began calmly. Welcome. You've arrived just in time. Behind her, a transparent dome revealed hundreds of assembly ships gathering outside the station. Today marks the founding of the Sovereign Assembly. A union built on one belief, that no civilization should ever need another civilization's permission to exist. She paused. We didn't build this to replace the compact. We built it because the compact forgot why it was created. The bridge remained silent. Then Elena revealed the truth. 9 current compact member civilizations have already joined the assembly. Several officers stared at one another. That was impossible. Compact law forbade divided allegiance. Yet, the assembly wasn't demanding loyalty. It was offering freedom. Then Elena delivered one final message. The 750 civilians aboard the AFS Horizon remain citizens of Earth. We request their immediate return. Her eyes never left the camera. We have asked peacefully 3 times. We will not ask a 4th. The transmission ended. No threats, no anger, only quiet certainty. Commander Kale looked through the viewport again. For the first time in his career, he wasn't looking at an enemy. He was looking at the future. The emergency assembly session began less than 6 hours later. This time, nobody applauded. The same politicians who had celebrated humanity's exile now sat in absolute silence. Economic reports flooded the chamber. Trade was leaving compact space. Independent worlds were requesting assembly membership every day. Several member governments were openly questioning compact authority. Everything the exile had been designed to prevent had happened anyway, only faster. Senior Administrator Vex Thuron finally stood. For the first time in 45 years, he admitted something no leader of the compact had ever admitted. We made a mistake. The chamber froze. Thuron looked around slowly. We believed fear created unity. It only created obedience. And obedience disappears the moment people stop being afraid. No one argued because no one could. 3 days later, Thuron requested a private meeting with Elena. There were no cameras, no guards, only 2 leaders sitting across a simple table. For nearly a minute, neither of them spoke. Finally, Thuron broke the silence. When we voted against humanity, I believed I was protecting the galaxy. Elena answered softly. I know, you don't hate us. She looked at him for a long moment. Hate is expensive. It steals time. We had a civilization to build. Thuron lowered his eyes. What happens now? Elena slid a small crystal across the table. It wasn't a treaty. It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation. The assembly doesn't exist to conquer the compact. It exists to remind every civilization that cooperation should always be a choice. Thuron picked up the crystal with trembling hands. Inside were the complete plans for humanity's faster-than-light drive. The same technology every military strategist had expected humanity to keep secret forever. He looked up in disbelief. After everything we did, you would still share this, Elena smiled. You can force respect. You can never force trust. Someone has to take the first step. For the first time in decades, Thuron's eyes filled with regret, not because humanity had become stronger, because he finally understood what the compact had lost. 18 days later, the AFS Horizon returned home. Families waited beneath a gray morning sky. As the transport doors opened, children ran into the arms of parents they barely remembered. Brothers embraced sisters. Friends who believed they would never meet again stood together without saying a word. Among them was a little boy who had been born during the voyage. He had never walked on Earth. His mother knelt beside him and whispered, "This is home." Elena watched from the edge of the crowd. No speeches were prepared, no cameras followed her. She believed some victories belonged to ordinary people, not politicians, not admirals, just families. 1 year later, the Sovereign Assembly had grown to 43 civilizations. The Anchor had become the busiest diplomatic station in known space. Wars between member worlds had fallen to zero. Scientific discoveries spread freely. Medical breakthroughs reached planets the compact had ignored for centuries. Humanity never became the ruler of the galaxy. It became something far more powerful, the civilization others chose to follow. Standing beneath the observation dome, Elena watched hundreds of ships disappear into hyperspace. Her young communications officer stepped beside her. "Do you think history will remember the day humanity was exiled, or the day the assembly was born?" Elena smiled as the stars stretched into rivers of light. "They're the same day, because the compact believed it had buried humanity in the darkness. Instead, it planted the seed of a future brighter than anything it had ever imagined. And across the galaxy, one lesson would be taught for generations. Never fear the civilization that seeks power. Fear the one that earns trust, because trust can build an empire that no army will ever be able to destroy." Subscribe.